Okay. All right. Hi, you guys. This is LT here back with another video. So today's video, I have Dr. J. Zigmont on the line with me, and we're going to be discussing child-free wealth. And Dr. Zigmont, so the first time I saw you on YouTube, I think you were doing an interview. This is like some years ago with My Wife and Kids. I don't know if you remember her. You did an interview with her some years ago. So that's how I first originally saw you on YouTube. So that's why I wanted to reach out to you and just discuss, of course, being child free as I am, and talk about finances and things like that. So, if you want to say intro about yourself and also about child free wealth a little bit.
Sure. So I'm the founder of Child Free Wealth and Child Free Trust. Child Free Wealth is a life financial planning firm specifically for child free people. I've been doing that for a little over 4 years. Authored a couple books, Porch Child Free Wealth, the Child Free Guide to Life and Money, and now we're launching a new service later this year called Child Free Trust that we're going to be the decision maker for child free people who don't have one. Their executor, power of attorney, financial power of attorney, medical power of attorney. So, like when somebody asks you that question, like who's going to take care of you when you're older? Our answer is your plan with our help.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Okay. So my first question is, how did you get into this line of work? And I guess because you are a child-free financial planner, how did you choose to be, I guess, just specialize really just doing just child-free finances for that?
Yeah, so I was studying to become a certified financial planner. I'm not a finance bro by training. Like I come actually out of academia and healthcare, and my work's really my PhD's in adult learning. So I'm really about how do I help people learn. And I was helping people on finance and had to become a certified financial planner. And when I went through the whole education process, there was never once a mention of being child free. It
Mhm.
doesn't exist. The CFP, curriculum, it's how you do financial planning. It all assumes you either do have kids or you will have kids. That's
Mhm.
it. There's no other choice. My wife and I are child free, and I started kind of looking at this, and we're both PhDs, we're researchers by nature, and I started doing research, and the research question I had was, are me and my wife weird?
Mhm.
And we're kind of weird anyway. Like we're two researchers who sit around at dinner talking about research, but are we weird for being child free, for the life we lived, all of that? And at the time, I didn't even know the word child free existed. Like I just like people without kids, what happens? And I found the child free subreddit. And if you haven't found the child free subreddit yet, that's okay. It's an interesting world at times, but there was like 1.5 million people there. So I'm like, at least we're not alone.
Mhm.
But if there's a couple million people, how come the financial advice all is based on having kids? So I
Mhm.
started diving into this, and over the past 4+ years, I've kind of spoken to over 500 child-free people to understand how being child-free impacts life, finances, and all that. Read a couple books. I've kind of created the concept of child-free financial planning because there was such a need. Because I'll tell you right now, being child-free changes just about everything of your financial plan. It's
Mhm.
not just like, hey, I don't have to pay for diapers. And I'm we were the first firm that exists to serve child-free people. I'm happy. I'm now seeing a couple other firms start up serving child-free people. That's great. There's about 50 million child-free people in the United States. I can't serve them all. So I'm really excited to see other people joining in.
Oh, awesome. That's so good. Okay, so my first question, well, sorry, the next question is, how can a child-free person get started on their financial planning, and how do you think that can compare to, to people who are parents?
Yep. So we have a program. It's in the Child for Guide Life Money that we call the eight no baby steps. And if you've ever kind of listened to Dave Ramsey or any of that, he's got his seven baby steps. So we've got the no baby steps. And the first three are very much the same. Set up an emergency fund, get out of debt, then have a fully funded emergency fund. Those are the basics. Now, that does not mean those are the easiest steps. Those are actually the hardest steps. The first step as a child free person is you need to get on a budget, you need to get out of debt. We often will use a measure called net worth, which is everything you own minus everything you owe. The hardest part in your net worth is to get to zero. Because if you owe more than you own, you're at a negative net worth. And getting out of debt is hard. Once you get out of debt, then we're going to save an emergency fund. Then we're going to save and invest towards your goals. Now, those goals are going to be different. And this is kind of where the baby steps and no baby steps separate. So in the Dave Ramsey world, the next step is to, save towards a house. And we're like, yeah, no, that's not necessarily going to be the one. Or save towards retirement. I'm like, well, that's an option. That's not always the choice. You want to figure out what your goals are. What do you
Mhm.
want to do? So, for example, for child-free people, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to tell you to rent, not to buy a house. Especially if
Mhm.
you're going to move all the time, makes no sense to buy a house. My wife and I sold our house almost 2 years ago and we rent. It's not
Mhm.
because we can't afford a house, it's because we want more flexibility.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
these type of things that change. And then we get into kind of like how you don't need life insurance, you need disability insurance, how do you do your estate planning, how do you care for your parents? Like there's a whole bunch of other steps, but you just have to set the foundation to start.
Exactly. Okay. So, what's the best way to divide our funds once, I guess once we pass away, what's the best way to divide our funds? So, I guess there's some people say that if they don't want to, maybe they don't have any family to give their money to or anything like that, should they maybe give to charity or is there anything special they should try to do with it?
Yeah, so most child-free people that I talk to embrace something closer to what's called die with zero. And I don't mean literally dying with zero, but like I'm going to spend and use my money across my lifetime, not pass it on. So the way my wife and I say it is our nephews get what's left over. If they
Mhm.
get 10,000 or 100,000, that's fine. If they get $1 million, we made a mistake.
Mhm.
Because realistically, if I'm in my 90s when I die, they're in their 60s, they don't really need the money then. Like
Mhm.
if we're going to help our nephews, we should do it now. And by the way, we do. We have a college fund set aside for them. We do a bunch of things for them.
Mhm.
But you need to be deliberate about your money. The eighth no baby step is how to wind down your wealth. Rather than having a goal of passing a lot of money, like how do I use it while I'm alive? So like if you're charitably inclined, you're better off giving money while you're alive because then you get tax breaks. If you want to give it to your friends, family, that's fine too. The other thing that folks often come back to is like, well, my family says I must give it to them. I'm like, that's nice. I don't care what they say. Like, this is your money.
Right.
We often get the kind of like, well, you don't have kids, so you should give it to my kids. And I'm like,
Mhm.
you know what? If I want to give it all to my dog, I will. Like,
Right.
I'm the one who worked for it.
Mhm.
Uh, but really, what I'm trying to do with my clients is I'm trying to say, don't die with a lot of money.
Mhm.
Like, be intentional about giving and spending your money across your life so that you don't leave a whole lot of money.
Mhm. Yeah,
How's that
absolutely. I
feel?
think I think with the actress Diane Keaton, she recently passed away, and I heard that she ended up giving some of her money as well to her dog. And I was reading some stuff on Oprah Winfrey, who is also a child-free woman, and she was talking about she was going to give her wealth as well to her dog. So I'm like, I think it's so interesting to see how that is, and also I think everybody should prepare for the unexpected for anything to happen. God forbid. But I'm just saying that it's just nice to have other avenues because like me, for example, I'm the youngest in my family. I have one older sister and my parents, of course. So if they all end up passing away before me, I also like to know just to kind of see what will be my options in case if I don't have any other living relatives, just in case. So that's why I always want to see about also investing in charities that I believe in and things like that. So I can always, give to that for them. So, but it's nice to also to have the option in case, there's other options to give our money to. So when we do pass. So, um,
And the key here is you have to have the paperwork in place. So if you
right.
don't have a will in place, like by the way, I don't care what age you are, if you're listening to this, you have to get estate paperwork in place. Estate
Hmm.
planning is not for rich people. It's for us. And being child free, it actually might be more important for us than parents. And the reason is if you don't have a will and you die and they can't find your next of kin, the state gets to take your money.
Hmm.
Like, anybody want to give the state your money? The answer is no.
I know. Yeah.
And they don't really, the state doesn't really look that hard to find your family.
Hmm.
I talked to one state, and what they do is they put it in the paper, in the newspaper, in public notices. What's
Hmm.
the odd that your family is reading the local newspaper in Kentucky or wherever you are? You're like
Hmm.
zero. So you need to have a will in place, a medical power attorney, financial power attorney, and an executor, and you can get it done for free at a place called freewill.com. Gets the paperwork
Hmm.
done. The hardest
Okay.
part is who makes the decisions for you. That's a different question. But
Hmm.
if you're child free, you must have your estate paperwork in place today.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So the next question. So how can we also better prepare for the unexpected events like a job loss, an illness, divorce, things like that? So anything unexpected happens, how can we also better prepare for those things?
Yep. So if you look at our no baby steps, once you get out of debt, the next step is to save 3 to 6 months in an emergency fund. That money gets put in a high yield savings and it's just there for your list, kind of like all the other things that happen. And people often think about that as like, what if I lose my job? That's
Mm-hmm.
one option. But what if like a family member gets sick and you have to like drop everything and fly across country? If you
Mm-hmm.
can't afford it, that's a problem. Or,
Right.
I had a client, they actually own a house and they had a tree fall through their house. I mean, like big tree all the way through the house. You're
Mm-hmm.
kind of out of luck because you have to like move to a hotel in their case immediately. So you
Mm-hmm.
want to have 6 months of expenses in there. Now,
Mm-hmm.
some folks will say, well, how do I know if it's 3 or 6 months? And my answer is, how stable is your life and how lucky are you?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? Like some people have bad luck. And I'd love to say it's something else, but like we got friends that just like, if it's going to be bad, it's going to happen to them. If you're one
Right.
of those where random things are going to happen, you need to have a bigger mercy.
Mm-hmm.
If you're married and you think you're going down the divorce path, you're going to need a bigger mercy fund.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the marriage, that's a separate thing, and whether or not that account is shared, there's a whole bunch of things that happen with divorce planning.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but you need to have your kind of safety net just in case. The
Mm-hmm.
other
Right.
one I've had folks talk about is, once you get to financial independence, you have more options. So
Mm-hmm.
right now, this year, kind of the political world is what it is. And we've had
Right.
some folks wanting to leave the country or move to other states. Well,
Right.
the bonus, if you have a emergency fund and you have savings, you can. You're like,
Right.
it gets you freedom. That's
Mm-hmm.
what money's really about. It's got about options.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. So, okay, so this is coming from one of my subscribers on my channel. So they want to ask, how can a child-free person maximize tax savings or other tax smart strategies? Or do you have any other suggestions for that?
Yep. So here's the thing. The US government uses the tax law to encourage behaviors they like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, we are not one of those.
Mm-hmm.
They're encouraging people to have kids, and that's current process. You may have missed it, but they actually just changed the laws, and even like Department of Transportation money, that money for highways, they're giving to states that have higher than normal fertility and marriage rates.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, there's child tax credits, there's a lot of that. There aren't many tax credits for us. And it's
Right.
particularly an issue for single child free folks. Because if you're
Mm-hmm.
single without kids or dependents, your tax rates go up pretty quick. There's
Mm-hmm.
not much you can do to lower your tax burden. What you can do is be smart about how you invest and what you do with your money afterwards. So, for
Right.
example, can you max out your 401k? Well, if you max out
Mm-hmm.
your 401k, you can either put that in Roth, where you pay taxes now, or traditional, where you get the tax break now. You can do a 529 for college savings. You can do different things like that. The key is to make a tax plan. And this is also going to vary greatly state by state. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if you live in California,
Mm-hmm.
I tend to encourage people to use a traditional 401k where they save taxes money now. I live in Tennessee where there's no income tax for the state.
Right.
And for people in the state like mine, I want you to do a Roth contribution because you're paying no state tax. And you move to another state with tax, you don't. You have to be very mindful about it. The other one in the tax, I just have to warn folks, please don't take your tax advice from social media.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many folks on social media saying, well, you could do this and this and this and this. And I'm like, listen, most of that is not right. Some of that is illegal. Like, you don't mess with the IRS. Like, the IRS doesn't care if you rob a bank. They literally don't. They just
Mm-hmm.
want to get their tax money. Like, as long as you
Right.
put it on the form and they get their money, they don't care where you got it from.
Right.
But you don't want to be messing around with that. You end up just paying what you have to pay. The key is if you have a good tax plan, you pay the minimum you have to pay. You just don't give the IRS a tip.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I'm in Florida, so we definitely don't have state taxes over here. So you mentioned that it's best to probably, in my situation, to put it in a Roth account.
Yep. Because here's what happens. You put it in a Roth 401k or Roth IRA, and
Okay.
keep in mind for the Roth IRA, there are income limits. But if you put it in now when you're in Florida, you
Hmm.
paid no income tax at the state. Now
Right.
you decide later you move to New York, I don't care, whichever state that has income tax, which there are more states that have income tax than don't, and
Right.
you take it out in retirement, you have never paid state tax on it, and that's okay.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
there's a bonus there. The one caveat there is if you have student loans and you're on an income-based repayment program,
Mhm.
you may want to put it in traditional 401k because that lowers your income for the year and will lower your student loan payment.
Okay. Okay. That's a good idea. So, okay.
There's tricks.
Yeah. Okay. So let's discuss like wills and powers of attorney. So, how do you know, sorry, do you know an effective or efficient way to just of doing a will and how to get it set up and where do we keep that information and so forth?
Yep. So a couple things just to keep in mind. Your will takes care of your stuff after you die. It's like
Hmm.
burial, all that, and what happens to your assets. And the will appoints what's called an executor. That's the person that's going to actually do it for you. So this is like the person that sells your stuff, gives it to charity, does whatever you say.
Okay.
If you have pets, it's the person that makes sure your pet goes to whoever the next person is. Your power of attorney, there's a medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney. Those make decisions for you when you cannot. So let's say you get in a car crash, you go up to the hospital, you are not conscious, you can't make decisions. Your medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney tell the hospital who's going to make decisions for you. Now,
Hmm.
if you don't have those in place, the government will step in and do this for you. So this is where we get kind of like those horror movies like I Care a Lot. It's the ones where like you get the court appointed guardian or conservator, which nobody wants.
Hmm.
So you have to have the documents. Now, the documents themselves can be relatively simple for child-free people. So I
Hmm.
mentioned before, you can get the documents done at freewill.com.
Okay.
If you don't have somebody you can appoint as power of attorney or executor, that's a different question. So one of the problems is you have to have somebody that you trust to make the decisions for you.
Hmm.
And as a child-free person, like the whole estate system is based on assumption that you have kids. Like it's like next of kin. If you don't have a family or friend that you want to put that burden on, because it really is a lot to ask of them, you can use a service like we have called Child Free Trust. In Child Free Trust, we actually serve as your medical power attorney, financial power attorney, executor, and trustee. We have a 24/7 emergency response system. So you get in that car crash, the hospital calls us, 24/7. We then verify who you are. We fax over a copy of your power of attorney, your medical paperwork, your care documents that you've created with us, and then we start acting in those roles for you. So the
Hmm.
way I look at it is if my wife and I are in a car crash, who makes our medical decisions, who makes our financial decisions, and who lets our dog out? Because I'm going to
Hmm.
tell you right now, my wife's going to be more worried about who lets the dog out than how I'm doing in the hospital. Now she says that's not true, but you and I know the truth, uh, and that's what those paperwork do. Child
Hmm.
Free Trust was designed. I've been for 3 years trying to figure out a solution for child free people. There's not one. In
Hmm.
California or Arizona, you can appoint a professional fiduciary to do this, but the other 48 states, like you're in Florida, I got nothing for you
Hmm.
besides what we're starting a Child Free Trust.
Right.
It's a service that does this specifically made for us.
Hmm. Okay. So, and you mentioned this already, but if you want to kind of, I guess, further elaborate, if you don't mind. So you mentioned about, buying and renting,
Mhm.
and I personally, myself, I'm renting right now. So, but I was thinking about probably like a year or two ago about possibly, buying in the future if I wanted to do that. But then it's like, I just love having that flexibility, just in case if I want to up and move or anything were to happen. I just like having that flexibility for me. So, one of my subscribers asked, as a child-free person, is it better to rent or buy? But I know you mentioned earlier that, it's probably best to rent, I guess, depending on the flexibility and things like that. But I guess, can you go into more detail about that if you don't mind?
So buying a house is part of kind of like the standard life script or the American dream. You buy the house, the white picket fence, 2.5 kids, the dog.
Hmm.
We're not following that path. We're not
Right.
like, hey, I have to buy a school in a good school, buy a house in a good school district. We don't have to do that.
Okay.
So buying a house is a choice for a child-free person,
Hmm.
not a requirement. I will tell you right now in the US, with where house prices are, where mortgage prices are, it is probably more affordable to rent in every community that you're in. There are
Hmm.
a few small ones, like for a while, Detroit was cheaper for you to buy. I don't know that everybody's like flocking to Detroit to buy houses, but in most areas, it's actually better for you to rent in general.
Hmm.
Now, the only time I'll encourage somebody to buy a house is if they're going to be there more than 5 to 7 years, and you
Hmm.
have to know for sure you're going to be there. Like,
Hmm.
and I don't know about you, but I don't know where we're going to be in 5 years.
Right.
Like, think about 5 years ago, that was pre-COVID. Like,
Right.
like how much has the world changed in 5 years?
Hmm.
But you have to know you're going to do that, and you have to want to do the work of buying a house. So
Right.
there's a lot of work that comes with it. Like
Hmm.
you got to paint the place and take care of it. I swear, people watch too much like those home and garden shows and like the flip the houses and all that,
Yeah.
and that romanticizes it, but it's a lot of work. And
Mhm.
in general, if somebody comes to me, I'm gonna say you should rent, unless they convince me that owning a house is like their number one happiness in the world. Because here's what really happens: is most people buy a house, realize how much work it is, and they're like, I should never bought.
Yeah.
So my wife and I, our house that we had in Mississippi, gorgeous house on 30 acres, had a lake. I mean, beautiful. I had to spend 2 days every week just mowing the damn place. Like,
Hmm.
you don't realize how much is in there. And what happened was our mortgage payment there is about the same as our rent payment here.
Hmm.
So it was one of those things. We moved here, and at the end of the month, I was looking at this a couple months in. I'm like, I have extra money in my bank account. I'm like,
Hmm.
what happened? Like, I budget, I have a structure. And I'm like, why do I have extra money? My rent and my mortgage were the same. And the answer is, I'm never going to Home Depot or Lowe's.
Hmm.
It's like all those little
Hmm.
things that add up. You
Hmm.
know, if I have a problem here, I call the maintenance guy and he takes care of it. It's not my problem.
Hmm.
So you not only get the flexibility, but you get, less work. The other thing that's happening, there's a great article today on the financial planning side. It was in the financial literature. It was
Hmm.
saying about Gen Y and Gen Z, the kind of younger component, are saying, I'm not going to buy a house because here's the thing. I can
Hmm.
put my money in the stock market and it returns 7 to 10% each year, or I can buy
Hmm.
a house that goes up by 4 to 5% each year. I was
Okay.
like, that's a pretty good argument on its
Hmm.
own.
Hmm.
But what happens is our parents, our family, others will say the only way to get ahead is to buy a house. I'm
Hmm.
like, no. Or they'll say, like, you're not an adult until you own a house. I'm like, well, then I'm not an adult. Like,
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, you gotta do what's best for you. And and I'm looking at stuff online on through either YouTube or like TikTok and stuff like that. And I'm coming across a lot of people who are posting about once they bought their house, now they regret buying it because of all the maintenance and the cost and everything. I guess they're calling it house poor. They're calling it house poor now. So I guess a lot of people, because like you mentioned, they want that dream of buying, having the white picket fence and buying a, 3 bedroom, 3 bath house. But it's like, can you really afford it? Especially, as a single person, like I'm single right now. So as a single person, I already know I don't want a house because I don't want the maintenance of a house right now. And it's just so much to deal with compared to like getting an apartment. If something breaks down, I can call maintenance. I don't have to deal with the landscaping and the mowing of lawns and all that kind of extra stuff. So, I mean, like you mentioned, I mean, who knows where I'll be in the next 5 years, but at the same time, it's like I have to make sure that I'm going to be, comfortable where I'm at right now and not stress myself out over a mortgage or just the maintenance of, keeping a house, especially if I like the flexibility of I can go ahead and move if I want to. So I think the renting for me personally is the best option for me. So, and especially if you don't have any kids, you don't have, if you don't have a significant other to help you out, then I think for renting for me is just a better option for right now.
it is a better option for most people. I mean, the example I like to use, my apartment is technically a
Hmm.
townhouse.
Hmm.
I rent. This same townhouse across the parking lot is
Hmm.
for sale as a condo.
Hmm.
What's the difference between the two? Nothing. It's the difference of, are you paying the money to the bank or are you paying it to the landlord? But the other difference is, if you own the condo, you got to deal with like the hot water here breaks. That's your problem. I'm like, people say, well, you're throwing money away when you rent. I'm like, nope, not at all. Like, I'm buying flexibility and I'm buying the lack of work.
Right. Right. So, okay. Okay. So in today's economy, can we really better off save for retirement, just with this economy right now, or if anything, if it gets worse later on in the years, what do you think is the best way to really just try to save as much as we can?
Yeah. So the first step is to get out of debt because the debt itself is worse than, investment. So what happens is if you pay off a credit card, you're
Hmm.
essentially returning the interest you would have paid. You're getting that as your return. So like credit cards are whatever, 24, 25, 29% interest. So if you pay off your credit card, you're essentially getting 29% of your money. It's tax-free, risk-free. Getting out of debt is always the first answer. You
Okay.
cannot save and invest your way out of this. Now, once you're there, what I tell everybody is once you get out of debt and you have a fully funded emergency fund, so that's that 6 months set aside, your next goal is to max out your 401k if you have an employer. That'll be 23,500, which you can put in your 401k.
Hmm.
If you're out of debt and you max out your 401k, you're done. You're good. Like it'll take time, it'll build up, but the way it works is getting from zero to 100,000 net worth is a whole lot easier than getting to zero. And getting from 100,000 to a million is just a matter of time. So it's about the systems you build up. Now, if you're living paycheck to paycheck right now, which is about 50% of the US, something needs to change. Unfortunately, with inflation and wage stagnation, I mean, there's a whole bunch of issues. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you are just waiting for a crisis.
Mhm.
And right now we're in the middle of the government shutdown, all of that. I mean, like anything can happen. AI takes away your job, whatever it is, you're out of luck. So you
Mhm.
need a different system. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you need one of two things. You either need to lower your cost of living, which might be moving, might be other things, or you need to make more money.
Mhm.
And what happens is people go, well, I can't. Well, the problem is if you can't, if you truly can't, then you're at the whims of the economy or whatever else. You know, if you've been to the grocery store anytime soon, prices are up. Like
Right.
the the news says there's not much inflation. I'm like, yeah, sure. But if I go to buy a steak, it's almost double what it was last year. Like they say the numbers. So you have to create a system. The problem is, and I'll take you for example,
Mhm.
when you're single with no kids, there's what we call a single tax. It's not
Mhm.
literally a tax, but it's the extra cost of being single. It's somewhere between $400,000 and $1 million across your lifetime. Because here's the thing, if you had a partner, you could still live in your one bedroom apartment. You just would
Right.
split the rent down the middle.
Right.
You split the electric bill, you split the Netflix account. Actually, if you're really smart, you date people so you have the Netflix and they have the Hulu and we share it. But
Right.
what happens is if you're single, there's kind of two things that happen for single folks. And by the way, a third of people will never marry, as opposed to 2.5% of parents. And when I look at single folks, we call them soloists. Single with no kid, we call them soloists.
Mhm.
As a soloist, you either get really good about your money and you're really tight about it and you're saving every penny and you're building your net worth, or you're broke. And there's nowhere in between. Like it's because of the extra cost of being single. Now, the one good news, and I just want to kind of point this out, people talk about the gender wage gap.
Mhm.
There's good data looking at this at median wages, and they find that the difference between parents, between men and women, is about $1,800 a month. So that's huge. Women get paid $1,800 less. That's of parents. Of child-free people, the gender wage gap disappears. It's about $180 versus 1,800, and statistically, that's no difference. So the good news is, if you're listening, you're a child-free woman, the gender
Mhm.
wage gap's a whole lot better for you than it is for a mom. It
Mhm.
actually turns out the gender wage gap, it may be a tax on mothers rather than truly being gender. But you also have different options.
Mhm.
So, if you're single and you have no kids and you're not making ends meet, you might have to move. One of my
Mhm.
favorite, there's a website called Make My Move. And Make My Move is cities that are begging people to move there, and they're willing to pay you to move there and give
Mhm.
you tax breaks and give you free college and other things. If you're working remotely, cool, let's move to one of these cheaper cities. Then I might be able to save up for those emergencies or for the economy going bad or whatever else.
Okay. Okay. Um, so I guess so this is my last question. So if a person needs to take care of other family members, how can they also better prepare for a type of life change?
Yeah. So we call this a plan for parents. And it doesn't literally have to be your parents, but it can be whatever your loved ones are.
Hmm.
Um, we encourage people, we actually do something we call a parent checkup, where we will go and dive into your family member's situation and go, what are their issues? What are their finances? What's their medical issues? What are their healthcare costs? All of that. And what you're going to find is that your parent or other family members planning or lack thereof, it's going to have more of an impact on your own success than your plan. This is where I've had people like, oh, I've got a great financial plan. And then mom breaks a hip and they get, oh, well, you don't have kids, so mom can move in with you. I'm
Hmm.
like, listen, I
Hmm.
didn't say I signed up for that. Like,
Hmm. Right.
uh,
Yeah.
you have to set boundaries. My wife and I have a rule that nobody lives with us.
Hmm.
Why? Because I would lose my mind. I'm just telling you right now. It's not because I like you, don't like you. I just can't. We will
Hmm.
help in other ways. But the hard part is you have to be able to set boundaries.
Hmm.
And what will happen though is your family they kind of expect it. It's why they ask the question, well, who's going to take care of you when you're older to child-free
Mhm.
people? It's because they're
Right.
assuming their kids are going to do it.
Right.
You don't have to. Now, you might feel cultural pressure, you might feel societal pressure, you might feel other things. But the way I like to look at it, it's kind of like in a plane, when the flight attendant says, put your mask on first before helping others.
Hmm.
You need to be able to watch out for yourself and you need to have a plan. So, what I tend to do with folks is we try to plan in advance. And what you tell your family members is, this is my limit. This is my
Hmm.
boundary, whatever it is. Like I had somebody that this couple wanted to pay for their parents' long-term care. So this couple, they had three parents still living between them. They said, we will pay for their entire long-term care. I said, okay, fine. So I did the math. And to pay for the three parents, it was going to be $750,000. And they were like, "Uh, yep, so what other options are there?" Like
Hmm.
their heart was like, I want to pay for this, but like, I don't know about you, but I don't have an extra $750,000.
Right.
And what we ended up doing was they put a certain amount of money aside each month to help them. They worked through a system. They felt comfortable with it. I will say the other one, my general rule is you do not give family money.
Hmm.
You help them in other ways, but you don't become an ATM. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, it's very common for people to, well, you're child free, you can help me with, like you don't have kids, you can buy your nephew the better game system. I'll
Hmm.
tell you right now, you know who's getting the better game system? Me.
Hmm.
Like you can come over to my house and play it.
Hmm.
Um, but you see people do this, and if you start giving people money, they just keep coming back. I had a
Hmm.
guy, Vietnam vet, guy's older, and every month on the second of the month, people would come over and say, "Oh, my transmission blew. I got this problem. I got that problem," and ask him for money. He came to me because he was trying to figure out how to pay to replace the fence on his house. And I'm like, "You've got enough money coming each month." I'm like, "Where's it going?" Every month, his family and friends line up the day after he gets his disability checks to ask for more. I'm like, dude,
Hmm.
you take care of yourself first.
Right.
And his answer was, well, if I do that, they'll never come around. I was like, I'm sorry, man. Like, I really am. But they're using you.
Hmm.
And you don't want to start that cycle. Instead, you can help people in other ways. So, for
Hmm.
example, for my family, we don't give any money. But, if they're hurting, I'll pay their oil bill or something. Or I may even pay their rent for a month.
Hmm.
Not directly to them. They don't get the cash. It's my choice. Like that's how we go. Or another thing I've had folks do is, you pay for like a financial coach to help them get their budget in place.
Hmm.
Or you pay for a social worker to help them on their medical issues. There's a lot of ways you can help
Hmm.
without handing over cash. Because the
Right.
first time you hand over cash, I don't know if you've had this, but one of my colleagues had this. I was actually a friend. Um, Somebody came to him, my baby needs diapers and I need money.
Hmm.
Okay, fine. So they finally gave him money for diapers. Next thing they look on social media and the person is talking about their new iPad. I'm like,
Hmm.
what?
Right. Hmm.
They knew, their friend knew if I asked for diapers for my baby, you're going to be okay. By the way, what I would do in that situation, I would show up their house with a pile of diapers.
Hmm.
And you know what then would happen? They'd be really pissed at me.
Hmm.
I'm like, you said you need diapers. That's what I gave you.
No, they
Well,
wanted the money for the diapers, not that. They want to use the money for something else.
you got it. But they know
Hmm.
if they come to you and ask for an iPad, you're going to say no.
Right.
But if they come and ask for diapers, you're going to be like, okay, fine.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm guessing you've seen some of this, or
Oh
I'm
yeah, for
doing some.
sure. Yeah. And trust me, when I tell you that would be the last time that I ever loan you or give you any kind of money, that would be the last time if I ever saw that.
Yeah, we never loan money to anybody. I'll give you
Yeah.
a gift if I have to. I will buy the diapers for you.
Hmm.
And literally, I will buy the diapers for you. Like I had some one of my family members like, if they have kids, that's my favorite gift to give them. I'll just buy them like cases of diapers
Hmm.
because they're gonna go through them, and
Hmm.
they're like,
Yeah.
all right, well, where's the check? And I'm like, mm-mm.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I'm glad I actually asked you all these questions because my sister and I are both child free. So I like to discuss these questions with her as well. Just kind of put some kind of game plan in motion because I always think about the future and I always think about, especially both of my parents, they're in their 60s now. So I'm thinking about, for them for retirement and also thinking about, down the road when, when or if we both have to take care of our parents in their old age. I like to also make sure that I like that being child free gives me that flexibility to take care of my parents. And like I mentioned, especially being in Florida now, I have been looking into other states for moving hopefully within the next few years. So trying to get like my debt and stuff that I have right now, try and get that paid off. But I definitely want to make sure in the next few years or so, if I'm like, hey, I want to move to Texas or I want to move to Vegas or New York or wherever, I have that flexibility to do that. So that's when the subscriber had asked about the renting and buying, people have the mindset of, oh, you're renting, you're giving your money to somebody else and all that kind of stuff instead of being said, well, it's like, well, we don't know what the future holds, and I want the flexibility to up and move if I have to. So that's what reason why, just renting just works for me at this point. Now, who knows in 5 years, I may give me a house, in 5, 7 years, I may give me a house once I'm more stable and I know that I want to be in this particular city or state for a very long time and I want to be stable there, then yeah. But right now it's the flexibility for me that I'm looking for.
Yeah, my wife and I are unlikely to ever buy a house again. I'm not saying never, but
Yeah.
like unlikely because you know what? We're here in Nashville and somebody asked how do we end up here? And it's because of the business and some other things. It's kind of nice for a little bit. Now, mind you, I don't want to live in Nashville forever.
Right.
If you haven't been in Nashville lately, it's all about like bachelorette parties and like it's got to they're calling it Nash Vegas now. But
Oh, okay.
like okay, sure, you get you go downtown and everybody's wearing the pink cowboy boots and the pink hats. I'm like, nah, that's not my scene.
Hmm.
But we have the option. And we have a we have a townhouse. We love it. It's got 3 bedrooms. Do we
Hmm.
need 3 bedrooms? No. But I have my
Hmm.
own office. She has her own office. Well, actually, she
Hmm.
shares her office with a cat. I swear the cat owns that room. But we
Hmm.
have the flexibility. But what
Right.
happens is, even in what you said, well, maybe later I'll buy a house. And I'm
Hmm.
like, why?
Hmm.
And the reason why we end up saying we have to buy a house is somebody's voice is in our head saying that's the way you get ahead. That's what
Hmm.
you got to do. And I'm like, no, that's part of the standard script. We're not following the standard life script. We're following our own path. And, you know, one of the few times I've ever said to somebody buy a house was somebody who said their impact on the world was they have these gorgeous gardens with the butterflies and everything else, and everybody in the neighborhood comes by and sees it. And they're like, that's my purpose in life is to have the garden that helps everybody. I'm like, then you have to buy a house. You
Right.
just do. Like, cool. But that's one of the few times, like, I mean, like, I count on one hand where I told somebody to buy a house.
Hmm.
And it was because it was attached to the impact they want to make or the life they want to live. I've
Hmm.
had so many clients over the past year sell their house and rent, and every single one of them have said, I should have done this a long time ago.
Hmm.
Like, buying a house is a trap at this point.
Right. Yeah, especially with this housing market, it's just insane. It's so insane.
People will say, oh, I'm going to buy this house, I'm going to retire here. You know what the odds of that are? Zero. Like, you're not really, you're going to buy a house at 40 and you think you're going to live there the next 45 years?
Hmm.
Zero chance of that. Like that might have happened for your grandparents,
Hmm.
but you don't know what's going to go on. You don't know where your life's going to go. You might end up in a different country for all I know.
Hmm.
On average, people that own a home move every 7 years.
Right.
The odds that you're actually going to retire there? Zero. And by the
Hmm.
way, the house you buy to retire in is going to look a lot different than the house you want to buy at 30 or 40. Because
Hmm.
you buy a house with stairs, you cannot retire there. Like
Right.
you get to a certain age, you can't do stairs.
Right. Right. That's true. So, but okay. Okay, well that's all my questions I have. If you don't mind just holding on, because I know this is recording right now, so maybe just hang tight after the recording. But I'm gonna go ahead and give you a minute. So if you have anything that you have going on right now, if you want to promote anything, also if my subscribers want to reach out to you and do like a one-on-one call with you, if you want to go ahead and share that information.
Yep. So on socials, we're child free wealth on everything except for Twitter. We don't go on that land. Website is childfreewealth.com. We offer a child free wealth checkup. It's $250. That will get you a look at your finances, kind of priority of where you go with that. And then we're launching just now, our child-free trust service. That is that service to actually make the decisions for you. And if you want to dive into this yourself, you can always pick up a copy of the Child-Free Guide to Life and Money at stores everywhere. And we have the Child-Free Wealth podcast. We try to give everything we can away to help people so that you're getting good advice that fits the child-free life, not just generic advice.
Absolutely. So the one that you mentioned about the doing the one-on-one call with you, is there a fee for that to do that?
Yeah, we charge $250 for the Child Free Wealth Checkup. You give us all your financial information. You meet with one of our Child Free Wealth specialists. They're all certified financial planners. And we kind of take a look top to bottom. Where are you going? What are your goals? What's your investment look like? What's your insurance look like? And it gives you a list of like, here are the things you should prioritize. And here's what you should do through a child free lens.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I've been wanting to do this recording for a while, so I'm so glad I had the opportunity to get to talk to you tonight. So again, I want to say thank you. Again, just hang tight for 1 second after the recording. But thank you everybody for watching. All my subscribers, thank you guys so much for everything, and I really appreciate you all. So please give this video a thumbs up. Please, I really appreciate all of your love and support for this channel. So please like, comment, subscribe. Please comment below if you have any other questions. And please like, comment, subscribe to this channel. I'll talk to you guys on my next video. Bye, guys.